Hi, thanks for coming back. I'm going to get into my story about Charlie, one of the saddest stories of my whole life. But before I start that, I say a couple other things. I wanted to say I've mentioned the Beachcomber several times, and that's where I first saw Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen, he's like we consider him homeboy because he hung out in North Long Branch, and he was from like Asbury and Freehold and right, all around our hometown. And he was always well liked and always called the boss back there. And the first time I saw him was at the Beachcomber outside outdoors, and I think the band was called Child at that time, and then they became Steel Mill before they became the E Street Band. And I know my brother-in-law Kenny, he knew Clarence. God bless Clarence. He died a few years ago. Sax player Clarence Clemens, big man. And my ex-husband Bob, I'm going to be getting into that story real soon. He jammed with Bruce a few times because Bob played guitar, and he was a good guitar player. Bob was a musician. He played more than guitar. But anyway, he jammed with Bruce a few times, and he told me that when they were passing the joint, that Bruce would pass. He wouldn't smoke. He said Bruce was always serious about his music. And I know a couple other friends in Jersey that are mutual friends, people that would call Bruce their friend maybe, and who have worked with him even. And anyway, so that's it. If I never paid to see him at a concert. Oh, he also played at the Boardwalk in Long Branch for 4th of July, and I saw him there. And when we get into my California story, I have another little tidbit to tell you about Bruce. Okay, so let's see. Oh, I remember one night I wanted to tell you about. I want to make sure I didn't forget this one. Okay, I was walking home, and I was probably right before I started driving, most likely, I guess. Or for some reason I didn't have the car. If I was driving, I don't know, I think I wasn't driving yet. But I was coming home. I'm pretty sure I was coming home from Sherry's house. It was late at night. I was walking by myself, and I'm walking down Atlantic Avenue. It was not that late, like maybe 8 or 9. It was dark out, and it was kind of unusually quiet. Like there was no cars out that night at all. And I'm walking along by myself, and all of a sudden this one car comes along and stops in the middle of the road, and the guy jumps out of his car and starts running towards me. Come on, baby, come here, baby, come on. I just took off running, and he ran after me for a little bit, but he left his car running in the middle of the street, of the busy street, usually busy street, which was like quiet, like it was like a ghost town that night. Anyway, I outran him, and he stopped running. He went back to his car. But if you've been following me, there was many times that I actually literally ran from men and boys. Crazy, but I was a good runner. I could outrun him every time. Anyway, I got home that night, right down the street, and what was on TV, what my family was watching, was the moonwalk. That was the day or the night that they had walked on the moon for the first time, and it was on the TV. I remember black and white, Neil Armstrong, First Step for Man. I forget how it goes. Anyway, I used to know that. So I just wanted to insert those because it was right around the same time period. But I'm going to go back to my sad story about Charlie, who I'm calling him Charlie, not his real name. He's deceased now. Sad to say. Okay, so I started messing around with him. I'm pretty sure it was before my senior year, but I told you I was with this other guy during my senior year. And I think it was that whatever couple of times I was with Charlie, it was not that big of a deal, even though I mean, he was so cute. He was like really, really, really good looking. But, I didn't think that much of it because I was only like, kind of casually with him a few times. Um, but then the following year, after senior year, after Tim and I broke up, I started seeing Charlie a lot, regularly, every week. I was usually like probably only once a week, but he would call me when he wanted to see me. He had several guy friends that he hung around with a lot. When he wanted to see me, he would call me, and that's the only time he called me. We didn't just sit and talk on the phone like I did with other guys in high school. It's like if he called, it was like I'm picking you up. Can I pick you up in 2 hours or something? And that was the way it always was. So I was with him. I was doing downers, like I mentioned in the last episode, right? Downers. There's some strong drugs, barbiturates, and we were doing them a lot. He was addicted, I'm sure. I was maybe starting to, I don't know, but I mean, I was building up a tolerance because I could take several at a time, and we would just get totally wasted. And first time I stayed out all night, I was 18, definitely 18 at the time. It was after high school, still living at my mom's. My parents, my dad was home then also. And one night we were out like we would do all night. Like usually it started out like me and maybe a couple of his friends. Maybe it was just the two of us, whatever. We'd drive around a little bit. We'd go hang out in West End. Maybe we get something to eat when we were hungry. Go and park, always park, of course. And we would do those pills. We'd smoke a little pot, maybe drink a little beer, maybe, but it was mostly the pills that we were doing. And then after a while, the his friends would kind of go off, and I'd be alone with him, and we'd be making out and all that. I figured out my rhythm, so I couldn't get pregnant, and we didn't use protection. The only time I did ever was with my first, Daryl, who I called Daryl. Right after that, I figured out my rhythm because I read, I did a little research, and I would only have sex on the days that I thought it was safe, and that's the way I did it, and I didn't care. I mean, I was enjoying it, and at that time, I didn't place any special value on it. It was just fun and what I felt like doing. But I was in love with this guy, Charlie. Really, he was so sweet, so different because he would talk to me about things that no other guys would ever talk to me about, their inner self and all. And maybe he was my soulmate, maybe, I don't know. But so we messed around for I had it in my head 9 months that I was seeing him, so I don't know. Anyway, then I met this other guy. Okay, I didn't meet him. I actually met this other guy, Bob. Bob turned out to be my husband years later. Okay, so he comes into the picture. I met him when I was 12 and he was 13. He was going with my girlfriend's older sister. That was when I was first, just introduced, and first time I ever noticed him. And then in high school, now he was 2 years ahead of me in high school, but in high school he flirted with me a lot. Every time he saw me, he was always winking at me and calling me Susie Q. And one time I was at my locker during class. I don't know why, but no one was in the hall except me. I was at my locker, and here he comes down the hall, and he picked me up, spun me around, and kissed me on the mouth. and nobody ever did that in school, to me anyway. So, you know, we were flirty, right? I didn't think too much of him. My one best friend had a crush on him, you know, so I didn't. And I was all about Charlie. But now, one day I was with my girlfriend. Um, I'm going to call her Beth, okay? So I was with Beth driving, and we picked him up hitchhiking, dropped him off at his apartment where he lived with his mother, his parents, and he said to call him. He wanted me to come, wanted us to come up there, but anyway, he said call him or whatever, like he wanted to see us. I don't know if it was me or her or both or whatever. Anyway, one day I called him. My girlfriend, Beth, you know, we talked about that, and she said, call him. So I called him. And yeah, he invited me over there, and I went over there, and that's how it started. So me and him started messing around. And he was, you know, he was good looking. He was white, but he had an afro. He had that real curly hair afro. He was Italian, and very much a hippie pothead. And I liked him. I thought he was cool. You know, he played the guitar, and he had a lot of personality. Really, really great personality. Very friendly, made you laugh all the time. So I liked all that, of course. And I knew there was something wrong with Charlie, because Charlie was addicted to drugs, no doubt. And he was also doing something all the other days of the week that I didn't know what he was doing, because he only had time for me once a week. And even though he would spill his guts to me about things he felt and wanted to do and things like that, I didn't really know what he was doing with his friends. And, you know, when people are in drugs, some other bad things might be going on. I don't know. But Bob had a job. He had an old beat up Mustang convertible where Charlie had this brand new GTO. But Bob was just, you know, he was more independent and seemed to be more responsible because he was just smoking pot. He wasn't doing other drugs. Had a job, even though it was a crummy job. He worked at the racetrack, which was right nearby. Worked for the feed company, throwing bales of hay to the horses and stuff. But he had a job. So I'm thinking, you know, and he was calling me. He started calling me every day. He really liked me. He was calling me every day, wanted to see me every day, where Charlie's only calling me once a week, even though I'm really in love with him. But I was, you know, in my logical mind, I'm thinking that Bob's better for me. He's better. Charlie's like a dangerous person. Who knows what's going to happen with him? Bob's more reliable, dependable, independent, all that stuff. So I was tending towards him just because I was 18 out of school and starting to think about, you know, maybe someday, you know, I might want to get married and, you know, thinking a little bit more seriously about men and all. So anyway, this one night I was with Bob, and next day I found out, well, my mom told me the next day, it might have been when I came home that night, probably, I think it was when I came home that night, that my mom said to me, and my mom liked Charlie a lot. I mean, he was so cute. She liked him a lot, and he was, you know, he was polite and nice with her and tried to talk to her and stuff, so she really liked him a lot. One time she even went with us down to the police station when we got pulled over for some reason. Probably he wasn't driving good, I don't know. Found a couple pills on the floor, and anyway, my mom came down and told them they were her pills and got us off the hook. But she really liked Charlie a lot. She didn't like Bob so much because Charlie looked nicer. Bob was more grungy looking, and Charlie was better dressed with the nice car and all that, and maybe more handsome. I don't know. But she told me that one night I came home and she said, Charlie called 3 times. 3 times. She said, he's asked me, where are you? I say, I don't know, 3 times. That's the way my mom talked, because she was Japanese. Then she says, then he come over. He came over. 8 o'clock, he come over. You not here. I don't know what to say. So the next morning, I found out that there was a terrible car accident. And he was speeding. He ran into a tree. He had his friend, like his best friend maybe, neighbor that he grew up with, in the car with him and his girlfriend, and they were both killed. And you can imagine what I was thinking. I mean, it was awful. It was just awful. It was like the worst thing that could happen. I don't know. I was just like in shock. I was thinking I should have been there. I'm sorry, I'm gonna plug this in before it messes up on me here. Gotta do this. Okay. So my first thought is that he's upset because I wasn't there when he wanted to see me. Like we usually had a date once a week, and this time apparently it was going to be a double date, and called me 3 times, came over, I wasn't there. He was upset. He was driving too fast. He ran into the tree. I was thinking if I was there with him, his 2 friends, his friend and the girlfriend, would have been sitting in the back seat. My first thought was I would have been killed, but no. If I was there in the front seat, he would not have been driving like that. Everything would have been happy, like it always was with us, If I told him he never drove like that. He never drove crazy fast with me. And if I told him to slow down, he would have slowed down. He was driving fast because I wasn't in the car with him. Because he wanted to be with me that night, and he thought we were going to have a nice double date, and he didn't know where I was, what I was doing, and he was angry. He drove too fast and hit that tree. So I felt like the accident was all my fault. It took me decades to forgive myself for not being there with him, for him. We were in love. I really felt like we were. I don't know what else was going on with him exactly, but I really felt like we were in love. But I was such a terrible, stupid person back then, so immature. I was probably in shock, maybe some kind of PTSD or something, who knows. I don't know what was going on in my psyche, but I couldn't deal with it. I just didn't know how to deal with it. I was not mature enough to deal with it the right way. I was just devastated. And he was in the hospital, injured very seriously also. And Bob, who I was with the night before, he was also friends with Charlie, but he did not know that Charlie and I ever dated. He didn't know that. I didn't tell him. And he never saw us together or never thought anything about it because, it was a big gang of people that hung out in West End. And, if you saw somebody with one person just once or twice, you don't think nothing of it. Anyway, when Bob heard about it, he was also devastated because Charlie was his friend, and he also knew the other guy. I knew the other guy also, the one that was killed. And so Bob said, we got to go see Charlie in the hospital. I just said, yeah. I wanted to go to him, but I just, like I said, I was just too messed up. I wasn't mature enough to do it on my own like I should have. Never should have went with Bob, but I went with Bob to visit Charlie in the hospital when he was seriously injured. And the nurses told us that we could go in, but don't mention his friends because he doesn't know yet that they're dead. So we went in, and I don't know what Charlie thought about me coming in with Bob, but because of Bob, I didn't go to Charlie and just start hugging and kissing him. I was just quiet. I just went in and like sat there. And Charlie kept saying, kept asking for the other two, how are they, and we just kept saying they're down the hall. That's all we knew. They're down the hall. So that's what happened, and I was so ashamed of myself, but I didn't know what to do, I was just a stupid wreck. And in retrospect, if I could go back there and do it over, I would have told Bob no. I would have went by myself to the hospital. I would have just been by Charlie's side the whole time and just stayed there, stuck to him, and helped him through the whole recovery and everything. That's what I should have done. But I was too weak and stupid and immature to do any of that. Maybe he was my true love. Maybe he was my soulmate. But I wasn't there for him when he needed me the most. I stuck with Bob. I felt like he was the better bet. And that's the end, I think. That's all for now. Okay, thanks for watching. By the way, if you subscribe to you see my face out there when you're watching my videos, click on there and subscribe, because then you'll see them all in order, and it helps me if you subscribe because YouTube likes it. So thanks for watching.